An investigation intended to expose Planned Parenthood of selling infant body parts leads to an indictment, but not of that organization, instead of its accusers. According to a Texas grand jury, Planned Parenthood did nothing wrong. Instead, the jury indicted a pair of filmmakers who made the undercover videos. The duo, charged of tampering with a governmental record, a second-degree felony with a possible sentence of up to 20 years in prison. For more on this story, we welcome via telephone Tennessee Congressman Marsha Blackburn. Marsha is the chairman of the House Select Committee on Infant Lives. Marsha, your reaction to what happened with the grand jury in Texas?
Well, we are disappointed to hear this, but we are waiting to get more information on it. There was a felony and also a misdemeanor indictment that came down. And, J.D., I think the important thing here is to realize that this does not change the work that our committee is going to do. The Select Investigative Committee will be there to gather information and get facts about the medical practices of abortion service providers and the business practices on the procurement organizations that sell the baby body parts. And our select panel will help to centralize the investigations that have already been taking place in Congress. But we will continue the focus of our work. We will abide by the rule of law, and we'll make certain that as we find facts, that the focus is on how the law has been followed and on defense of life.
Let me just ask you very quickly, Marsha, 15 seconds. Planned Parenthood, should tax dollars be taken away from that organization?
I have always supported defunding Planned Parenthood. I believe that money is fungible, and they are the nation's largest abortion provider.
And on that note, Marsha Blackburn, phoning in on a very busy time back in your district in Tennessee. We do appreciate your perspective. Let's continue the conversation on this story now with Dr. Richard Land. He joins us via telephone from Charlotte, where he is the president of the Southern Evangelical Seminary. Richard, I heard a long time ago that there is a distinction between what is legally correct and what is morally correct. The filmmakers are being charged in Texas with tampering with government records, in part because they made fake IDs to meet with those officials at Planned Parenthood. Do you believe there's a legal case to be made against them, or is this outweighed by the moral considerations?
Well, this is the kind of case that gives lawyers a bad name and gives government a bad name. This is using the law against its own citizens. It's outrageous. This is a case where they want to kill the messenger. The messenger are they're investigative journalists who are employing methods that have been used by investigative journalists since the invention of investigative journalism. And they're now letting the culprits off the hook, and instead they are going after the whistleblowers, the investigative journalists who have exposed these outrageous practices by Planned Parenthood. And it shows the extent to which abortion is a sacred cow for the progressive left. They have adopted a culture of death, and they almost worship death. And so, they have become desensitized, and they're desensitizing the society. I said when this whole scandal broke that the Planned Parenthood controversy was going to tell us a lot about ourselves. And what it tells us is the culture of death has made considerable progress in our midst, and that is a sad, sad commentary on American society.
Let me ask you about the death of the First Amendment. Certainly, the rights of journalists. Now, this is a chilling effect for investigative journalism, is it not?
Oh, it's worse than chilling. It's a freezing effect. Investigative journalists are now going to have to be extremely careful and have second and third thoughts about, if I do this, am I going to be charged? Am I going to be charged with a felony? These two investigative journalists who have exposed these heinous practices by Planned Parenthood employees, they could face up to 20 years in prison for doing what was necessary to tell the truth and expose this scandalous, barbaric behavior by Planned Parenthood. It's an outrage, an absolute outrage. And I'll tell you, it's rubbing salt in the wound for me because I'm a native of Harris County. I grew up in Houston, Texas, and that this was being done in my hometown is appalling.
And we will have to leave it there. Dr. Richard Land, we appreciate your comments via telephone tonight from Charlotte. You heard what Richard had to say. He said it's a freezing effect on the First Amendment and on the rights of undercover journalists, not to mention the rights of the unborn. Your reaction to that? I would love to have your comments. Send them to me at newsmaxtv.com/comments. Up next, is it reasonable and customary for customs to ignore incoming passengers? We'll talk about it.